Well, I'll go ahead and spoil something. Treston Ebner is not going to be in this region since he
How
was
fast did you have
listed
to
as
run
a
a
running
40
back.
to get in the speed region? Because am I in the speed region?
Do you think you belong in the wide receivers and cornerbacks region?
Well, what's your 40 time?
What was your fastest 40 time, Terrence?
Listen,
Yeah, you don't want to say it now. Yeah, you don't want to talk about it now.
Ask no questions, I tell you no lies.
Hard to tell if that was a clip from a Baylor football podcast or a literary one with the Charles Dickens quote at the end. We love it.
Yes, asking me no questions and I'll tell you no lies. That was just a taste of the Please Bear With Me podcast on the Rogue Sports Network. And joining us now to share what else is in store for listeners is the show's creator and man with off-the-charts charisma, Scotty Swingler. Thank you for coming today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So glad to have you here, and also glad for the reboot that you're experiencing right now. You've had a lot of fun on your shows. The origins actually go back to 2017. How did it start?
Yeah, so I graduated from Baylor in 2015, and what I miss the most about being a college student during football season is the banter that you could have back and forth with your buddies in the apartment, right? Like the speculation and the dreaming and the possibilities. And so as a grad student, I really wanted to bring that back because I was missing that from undergrad life. And so in 2017, by myself, got a microphone and started Please Bear With Me. It started with just tens of listeners and grew into thousands of listeners by the time I was done with it, and we're really excited to be bringing it back.
Obviously, you have a lot of pride for Baylor because you're an alum, but any other reasons why you specifically wanted to focus on Baylor athletics in this podcast?
Yeah, so I'm not just a Baylor alum. I'm a Waco kid, born and raised, and I vividly remember being a kid standing in pouring rain with about 300 other Baylor fans in the dark days of Baylor football at Floyd Casey Stadium. My dad was one of those that said, we go to every game and we stay till the end because we are Baylor Bears. So it's in my blood. I love it. I've rooted for Baylor my whole life. So you can imagine how fun it was as a student when there was a Heisman Trophy and some championships as well. Really grew my passion for it. If I can talk about anything for a long time, it's Baylor football.
Yeah, the dark days in the rain. Not a fair weather fan, a fan through and through. That's what we're looking at here. Okay,
Yes,
so your co-host Terrence, he's the one who had the Dickens quote at the end. Tell us about Terrence.
Yeah, so Terrence Ganaway was a record-setting running back at Baylor in 2011, Alamo Bowl MVP, and Terrence is a good friend of mine. I consider him a big brother, and he's not just funny, as you saw in that clip. He's got a great wit about him, but he's also a really sharp X's and O's guy because he played, and he's a great friend of mine, and so we have that good banter back and forth. And when I thought about restarting the show, I reached out to Terrence first, and he was enthusiastic about co-hosting, and that just makes us better.
Great.
When you talk about restarting, for those who aren't familiar with this journey, what do you mean?
Yeah, so I hosted this show from 2017 to 2020 just by myself. I kind of burnt out on it. There was another host, Travis Corley, who was in that clip as well, hosted for 2 years, and then we took a break, and then when I started working at Rogue Media full-time about 5 months ago, started dreaming about bringing it back. What could we do? Well, let's make it a YouTube show, right? Let's do it bigger and better than before, and so we're really excited to relaunch it.
And you have, other guests obviously as well, and other hosts too, along with you and Terrence, or you're going to rotate some in and out? Is that kind of...
It's a little variable, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The new show is going to be Terrence and I every week. So
Okay.
Terrence and I will be co-hosting. The two guests there were Michael Bartlemay, one of my best friends from undergrad, who I used to banter with all the time, and then Travis Corley, who co-hosted the show with me and did it for 2 years. We'll have former Baylor football players on. We had 7 former Baylor football players on besides Terrence in our first episode Sunday night. So we'll bring on former players. I like to give them an opportunity to tell stories. We've had a former Baylor mascot on. Really, if you've got a story to tell about Baylor football, we want to bring you in.
Sunday night makes total sense. If that's when you are launching your episodes, people are getting ready for the week. It's something easy to listen to or watch. And you are now running a March Madness style bracket to determine the greatest Baylor football player ever. How's that going? Explain how that's working.
It's so fun. So March, we all fill out our brackets, right? And so I wanted to see who Baylor fans thought were the best Baylor football players ever. So we've got 64 players right now in a bracket from all eras of Baylor football. I'm talking all the way back to the 50s, all the way up to present day. There's an example of a region of cornerbacks and wide receivers. You can see some of the names there. Okay. And each week we're going to narrow down based on fan votes. So you can go to my Twitter page, pleasebearw_me, or go to our YouTube page and get the link to go vote on your favorite player in each matchup, and we'll see what Baylor fans think.
And that's how to get involved and vote. Okay, very, very good. Is there any guest, I have to ask this. This is your chance to put it out into the universe.
Let's go.
Any guest that you would love to have? Hey,
oh my gosh.
And for the stars, really.
I think the dream for any Baylor football podcast would be RG3, who has his own successful podcast out there, right now. So if we could get Robert Griffin one day, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's the home run, home run ball.
He seems like the kind of guy who would.
I think so.
Come on, RG3,
we'll send him this
it.
clip, and we'll see if he'll join us.
There we go. What is it about this show that you love, and why should people tune in, even if they haven't grown up a Baylor fan?
Yeah, I like to say we kind of have three legs, like a three-legged stool for Please Bear With Me. So one, we want to give you the banter. We're going to have opinions. We're going to speculate. We're going to go back and forth and argue. That's part of the fun. One, we're going to talk X's and O's, like Terrence knows football. We're going to have guys on that know how to break down Baylor week to week schematically. And then the third thing is we want to tell player stories. So again, I've had former punters on. How often do they get spotlighted? So we want to be a storytelling place. So I know people have different flavors of podcasts they enjoy. I hope that somewhere in there that hits you, whether it's the analysis, the banter, or the storytelling. We kind of want to do all of it really well.
There is something special about being a Baylor fan because, there truly are ups and downs. And it's, I guess, just describe the experience of being a Baylor fan, because I think that makes you an excellent host. But tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, again, for me, it's not just that I went to school there. I grew up here. Both my parents went to Baylor. They met at Baylor. They were not from Waco. They stayed in Waco forever, right? So I grew up here rooting for those 3-win teams like they were the best thing ever. Meeting those players when I was 10, they were my heroes. I talked to Dominic Ziegler. He came on with us Sunday night, famously beat Texas A&M in double overtime with 2 catches. And I said, dude, you were one of my first heroes as a football player. And so, when you grow up in it and then you go to school there and experience all the tradition, and then you graduate and continue to see the success, like all of it's just great. And Baylor's a unique, special place. And if it's your kind of place, it's hard to imagine loving anything else just as much. Yeah.
Well, how lucky are we to have Rogue Media with
for sure.
Content creators like you, Scotty, and there's just such a variety of different podcasts you can check out there. Scan the QR code on your screen to listen to the Please Bear With Me podcast. Don't forget to vote for the greatest Baylor football player ever.
We'll be right back. Thanks again.